Hello, everybody. How are you? It's Joe Ditzel back again with another video. We're going to be talking about Tucson once again in our Tucson series this week. Every week we look at a different community. Sometimes we even extend that to 2 weeks if we need the time to cover these cities and towns and areas adequately. But how are you? How are you doing? A lot going on in the world, of course. We're completely shut down here in the Southern California area, or you could say 90% shut down. A lot of controversy because you're supposed to stay home. And the reason being that the more you stay home, the greater the opportunity of reducing the demand on the health system due to the people needing hospital care as the coronavirus continues to spread. So that makes sense. The more you stay home, the less people will get infected. The less people infected, the less will get sick. The less they get sick, the less will have to go to the hospital due to extreme conditions, meaning they're super sick. They're intensive care sick. So the weather's been beautiful here, and there is a state mandate to stay home, but you can't enforce it on 44 million people, I guess. So anyway, there's some controversy about people going to the golf course, playing golf. There's at the driving range, going hiking in with a lot of people on the trail, just doing stuff outside amongst various recreational activities. And of course on Twitter especially, but also on Facebook and other social media, people are complaining about that. And really, I get that some people have been cooped up for a week now, and it's very difficult. But if you can, just stay home. Just stay home, because the descriptions of what patients go through that get into a critical state with this virus is terrifying. I mean, I don't know any way to put it. If you read the descriptions of people that have to go into, I don't know if they would call that intensive care. I guess, yeah. If you have to go into intensive care and get potentially right up, I read a description of a guy. He said he was just on the edge of being put on a ventilator, and he described what he went through. And it was over 7 days, and he said, you feel like you're going to die. You feel like you're going to die, and you're all alone. So because of the isolation requirements, so it's terrifying. That's why we are all trying to stay home, because we don't want people like that get that sick. And he said it happened real quick. He had no symptoms, and it started out light, but he went in early to just double check, I guess. I'm kind of paraphrasing. And it very quickly turned extremely bad. And we don't want anybody that gets into that condition to not be able to get help. So please stay home. And this video might help you do that, because it's going to be entertainment value of which you haven't probably ever experienced in your life. No, it's not going to be that. It's not going to be that. It sounded good, right? It's going to be awesome. Everybody says they're great. In this video, we're going to talk about the economy of Tucson. Every video talks about a different aspect of this great city. If you've ever been there or have a chance to go down there, you want to do that. And of course, we've talked earlier about the history of the town, the geography, the weather, the climate. And now we're going to talk about the economy, which is so important to the health of a city and the happiness and employment of its citizens. What was that? What was that? That sounded like a Chamber of Commerce president giving a speech right there. So now, Tucson, of course, just like a lot of college town. You could call it a college town. It's much more than that, but it is a college town. And the University of Arizona is one of the biggest economic engines in the city, and one of the biggest employers. In fact, it's the largest employer in the city of Tucson. In fact, they were at one point thinking about putting the city hall inside the library at the University of Arizona, because really, to a certain extent, the University of Arizona is bigger than the city. So why not put the city services inside the University of Arizona? It would save time and money for a lot of people. Now, who else, though, is some of the bigger employers? Well, you've got the Davis-Monthan, how do you pronounce it, guys? Air Force Base, Monthan, Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. So you got a lot of guys down there. Now, I mean, if you've ever been through Tucson, you know that there's jets and planes. It's a big aviation town. And unless you go to the University of Arizona, there's a reason why. Because there's not that much to do in Tucson once the sun goes down. So a lot of people like to have a pilot's license. In fact, Tucson has the highest degree of pilot's licenses of regular citizens than almost any city in the United States on a per capita basis. And the reason being is they want to be able to hightail it out of town at a minute's notice. Okay, they want to get to Dallas. They want to get to Oklahoma City. They want to get to Chicago, to New York City, to LA, to San Francisco, Denver, Boulder City, and even Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, to have options on things to do. Now, if you're at the University of Arizona, of course, there's a whole lifestyle that is dedicated to the college student and even the non-traditional college student. Because, let's be honest, I've been a non-traditional college student. It's when you're an older student and you're taking classes. And part of the fun of being a non-traditional college student is you can act like a traditional college student with no penalty. Nobody cares, because you just say, hey, man, I'm in my junior year, even if you're 47 years old. You have complete rights. You have complete freedom to go out and act the fool, much like a modern college student does. But you also get to go to the football games. You also get to complain in the library that you have too much work. All of the things that a traditional college student does. Now, you should be prepared, though. You could get arrested, all right, acting crazy in the bar scene at the age of 53. If you're doing shots with the students and things get out of control and all of a sudden you can't remember where your pants are and it's only 10:30 at night and you're still standing in some nightclub without pants, well, you cannot blame anybody but yourself. So you have to act responsible. You have to act within a certain, boundaries that society sets down, even though those are stretched almost beyond comprehension for the University of Arizona students. That's just fair warning. So yes, there are a lot of pilots in town, and a lot of times, if Davis-Monthan Air Force Base is too busy, guys, if the planes cannot land, they'll just land them right there at the University of Arizona, right on the stadium. You wonder why those Blue Angels and those type of airplanes that go over the University of Arizona Stadium during football games are so good at it. Well, guys, they can land right on the field, so they're very comfortable because they know the surroundings, they know the environment. There's no surprise. And when they fly over the football stadium, half those guys are drinking coffee. I don't know if you've ever, I have a camera that can get very, very close, a very good telephoto lens on this camera. And sometimes I've been there at the University of Arizona, and been photographing those Blue Angel type planes. There's different groups. When they come over, and of course they do that barrel roll, well, guys, if you look close, 2 or 3 of the pilots in those 5 planes, they're drinking coffee. They've got a Starbucks up to their lips. And the reason being that they're so comfortable because they fly that route many times. In fact, landing on the field at the University of Arizona many times just to have the practice. Okay? All right, so what else? Who else is employing people? Where do you work? If you were to move there, where might you work? Well, guys, one of the really interesting places is the U.S. Army Intelligence Center. Now, somebody help me here. How do you pronounce it? Fort Huachuca? Fort Huachuca? Is that how you said? Now, they are the biggest employer in Sierra Vista, which is just down the street, right? It's very close. And inside there is the U.S. Army Intelligence Center. Now, I don't know if this is true because, of course, they're going to operate with a certain amount of secrecy. But the U.S. Army Intelligence Center works very closely with the university. And in fact, the university there, let me see how this developed. So they were doing regular, straight up work with the university. And then some of the university students contacted the U.S. Army Intelligence Center through back channels, okay? Not through official communication or relationships, and started their own connection to the U.S. Army Intelligence Center in order to better cheat on tests. Now, this is not confirmed, and this is completely rumors. And I'm not saying I know anything about it. But as I understand it, there has been an ongoing situation where some very bright students somehow used their charm, meaning co-eds, to get in with, to make a beachhead at the U.S. Army Intelligence Center, which they then tap into their resources to help cheat on tests at the University of Arizona. Now, cheating is a strong word. Let's just say to do better on tests. And I'm not sure of what artificial intelligence or spying techniques they use, or perhaps they do some old school breaking into professors' offices and stealing tests out of manila folders in the file drawers. I don't know. That seems very 1980s, right? But it could happen. And there's been some rumors for years, and I'm just repeating them there so you have the full picture of what may be happening. Of course, I have no knowledge. Now, the city of Tucson, in terms of other big employers, okay, Texas Instruments, Honeywell Aerospace. So you get the idea. You get this whole space and aviation and tech feel, right? SunQuest Information Systems, Bombardier Aerospace. Now that sounds like an aerospace company, right? But Bombardier Aerospace actually is a clothing manufacturer. They make a full line of retro flight wear that generally geared toward guys, but some girls wear them too. So, for example, a lot of the motorcycle community in Tucson wears Bombardier Aerospace jackets, leather jackets, aviation-styled clothing that fits very well within the motorcycle world, right? Very practical for motorcycling. Now, this is interesting. There are more than 100 companies in Tucson involved with creating optoelectronics and optics. In fact, it has the nickname of the Optics Valley. Now, why? Well, first of all, there is an observatory at the University of Arizona that has this enormous ability to zoom in. Like, it's so powerful, this telescope, it can zoom in on what Congress people are doing in Washington at any time. They can go to any congressional staffer's office or congressperson, congressman, congresswoman, any whip, any minority whip, majority whip, doesn't matter. They have the ability at the University of Arizona's Stewart Observatory to zoom in on the daily activities of any of these people. And they broke it down into a pie chart and of the activities that they're doing. And the number one activity is napping. Now, I'm all for getting enough sleep. In fact, I don't think people get enough sleep. But when you have a pie chart of congressional activities as evidenced by this powerful telescope, one of the most powerful telescopes in the world, okay? And of this pie chart, the biggest pie piece or pie slice is 60% of the pie chart, and it says napping. Well, that tells me that we need to make some changes. And based on the way things are going around here, I think that's a pretty accurate, although not official, I believe it's a pretty accurate finding. So that's right, Tucson has the nickname Optics Valley, but it's not the most powerful telescope at Stewart Observatory. That's not why. I mean, that's one of the reasons why, but the major reason why is that there are so many older people in Tucson. We call them snowbirds, and some come a little early. We call them fall birds, and then if they stick around after the winter, we call them spring birds. And some actually come during the summer for reasons unknown, but they're usually Canadian, and they don't really, a lot of times, know what they're doing or what's happening. And that's because they're in Canada. It's so cold most of the year, it slows down their blood, and a lot of times it doesn't get up to their brains. But for the most part, the Canadians, the people in the northern states of the United States, and from other countries, some from Antarctica, some from semi-cold places like southern Ohio, where it doesn't really snow that much, but it does get cold enough where you have to shut the window at night and have at least 3 blankets on the bed. They come down to Tucson for the beautiful, dry, warm, and in the winter, actually kind of semi-chilly weather that is natural to Arizona for the health benefits and the recreation, the golf, the tennis, the horse racing, right? The water skiing. I mean, they have more 90-plus water skiers in Tucson than any place in the country. And what is a very common thing that older people need? And really, you could say even middle-aged and older people. They need glasses. And Tucson, being the Optics Valley, is one of the leaders in creating the state-of-the-art optics and lenses that are needed in these glasses. What's interesting about it is that Tucson actually has a lock on the manufacturing and design of most of the glasses sold in the United States. And they sell them wholesale, not with styled brands on them, to the big brands, right? Oleg Cassini, Ralph Lauren. Okay, all of the big brands buy them and then just put their label on them and then sell them at 20 times their cost, sometimes 100 times their cost, to you and me out here in consumer land. But all of that starts in Tucson. So it just shows the depth of the scientific, aviation, optics, electronics, aerospace, and all of those connected industries that are such a big part of the Tucson economy. Well, what else? I just mentioned it. You got it right. Tourism. I mean, over $20 billion a year comes into Tucson. They get like 30, 40 million visitors every year. Well, the city is only 1 million. So they stretch out. In fact, sometimes so many people are in Tucson. If you looked at it from space, Tucson is bigger than Phoenix. And a lot of the mayor's office, this is kind of funny. If you go up into the mayor's office, which is inside the student center at the University of Arizona, the mayor has a photo from space. And you think, well, how did they get that? Well, they reflected it off. Here's what they did, guys. This is kind of funny. They focused the Stewart Observatory telescope, very powerful, at a satellite and locked onto one of the mirrors on the satellite above Arizona. And the reflection was a view of the state. And there were so many, and it doesn't always happen, but occasionally Tucson just appeals to more Canadians and more people from northern states and Midwestern states, and sometimes it's bigger than Phoenix. So the mayor gets a photo of this situation sent to him. Well, he kind of called him and asked for it from the Stewart Observatory, him or her, I forget who it was, and said, I want to put this in my office. So if you go in the mayor's office, there's a photo from space that shows Tucson is actually larger than Phoenix. Now, do you think the mayor ever used that photo in any kind of razzing or teasing of the mayor of Phoenix? Well, you got that right. It didn't take but a month before a copy of it showed up in the mayor's office of Phoenix and said, how y'all doing? How you doing? And it had like a happy face, right, to keep the context, to keep the spirit alive, to keep it from being mean. But you can bet that as soon as that situation changed, which it did, because Tucson is essentially smaller than Phoenix most of the year, oh, that mayor in Phoenix, he got his optical space shot and sent it right back to Tucson and said, how you doing? So that's how it goes down at Phoenix. And you got to be careful, guys, because that's an open carry state. And what I mean is you could open carry a Pepsi, a soda, a Coca-Cola. You don't have to have a lid on the cup, but just be careful. That's all I'm saying. They'll throw it right on you. So that is kind of a big picture look at the situation in Tucson. Tourism is this huge, huge industry. And it's because they have so many sunny days. You don't have any idea. Trust me. No matter where you live, unless you live in Arizona or a similar state like New Mexico, maybe Texas, maybe some of the southern states, and maybe Southern California. But guys, if you live in Ohio, North Dakota, Illinois, Montana, Washington State, Calgary, Alberta, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Regina, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Victoria, British Columbia, any of these places, and you've never been to Arizona, let's say you've never been. Let's pretend. You probably have. But you have no idea how sunny it is. It's sunny every day. Every day. 330 days a year. It's sunny most of the day. Now, like we talked about, there's some thunderstorms and monsoons in the summer, starting right around the 4th of July. And in fact, some of the Tucson neighborhoods have worked the monsoons and the thunderstorms into their 4th of July celebration. You'll be walking through a neighborhood, you'll see a poster on the telephone poles in that area. And the poster says, 4th of July celebration, fireworks, and monsoon. And they'll get out on a monsoon boat out in the middle of the raging waters, and they'll be firing fireworks at each other, guys, as they go down the rapids of the raging waters racing through the streets of Tucson. Firing fireworks at each other and laughing hysterically because, let's be honest, they're very close to Mexico and tequila is cheap. So they down a few tequilas, they get on these monsoon boats, they fire fireworks at each other, and everybody in this town in the neighborhood sits on the sidelines on the shore of these raging waters, cheering them on and laughing and having a good old time. So you've got billions of people coming, or millions of people coming into town, spending billions of dollars, mostly in the winter. Because listen, if you're up at Edmonton in the middle of February, maybe let's call it the middle of March, what is happening? This whole thing about staying shelter in place or stay at home or locking down states and communities. They have been doing that in Edmonton every winter for the last 175 years. Okay? They know what it's like to be indoors for long periods of time. Now, they get outside in toboggan. They get outside in snowshoe. They get outside and skate and play hockey. Yeah, they do that stuff, but guys, it's like 75 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. Your fingers are going to fall off if you stay outside too long in Edmonton in the middle of winter. Your fingers are going to fall right off your hand. So you can save the fingers, but nonetheless, you're going to suffer. And so they come inside and they know what it's like to be bored out of your mind, sick of your relatives, played every board game in the house, played every card game in the house. Now with the internet, you've gambled all the family money away on online poker or in FanDuel or one of these fantasy football league where you can place bets. So the money's gone. There's no food. You're at each other's throats. Well, what do? You go down to Tucson. Oh, hallelujah. Put your hands on the television set and feel the power. Because now you are in a sunshine panorama. I mean, it's sunshine every day. You're swimming in sunshine. And if you're Canadian, sometimes it's a shock to the system. Sometimes they report to the local health authorities in Tucson, and they say, I don't know what's wrong. And they go, well, what are you feeling? They're like, I got a big grin on my face because it's sunshine every day, but my body is overloaded with sun rays coming into my eyeballs, and it's shining up my body. I'm starting to glow. And the doctor says, look, just sit in this quiet room for about half an hour. You're going to feel a lot better. Drink this cold water, cold ice water. You're going to cool down. So just take it easy. You're getting too excited. You've been in that Canadian winter for too long, man. You just need a transitional period until your body resets. That's what they're trying to say. So that is really the big picture of the Tucson economy. This invisible engine of tech, education, government, aviation and aerospace that drives, and tourism that drives this community, and some other industries I didn't mention, but we just only have so much time, but drives this little community to 10 times its normal size. It's like the Grinch's heart. It grew 10 times that day. Well, sometimes in Tucson, it's like 100 times. And in fact, sometimes the edge of Tucson comes up against the edge of Phoenix, and they start having some gang battles. Not so much gang battles, but it's more like old people throwing oranges at each other over the fence. And they're like, get back over there, Tucson. You leave us alone, Phoenix. Right? The cops show up, and there's orange peels everywhere, and people have orange marks on their bald heads from the splatter. So it gets kind of crazy, but that's how it rolls in the Tucson economy. Guys, just keep in mind, I made up all this up off the top of my head. This is not a real video. This is a parody channel. So you can relax. If you thought things were crazy down there, well, they are, but I made up all this off the top of my head. So please, don't use this video as a reference, as a resource for your senior thesis, your master's thesis, your junior high, 7th grade thesis. Do they have thesi in 7th grade? It's not real. And don't refer to it in a presentation that you're making to the corporate bigwigs at your company, anticipating that you could rely on a successful presentation to pave your way to the CEO position and ultimately onto the board. It's not going to happen. In fact, you're going to set yourself back 5-10 years in your career if you use this video as a professional resource. So don't do it. Guys, that is everything that we want to talk about right now about the Tucson economy. Come on back. We're going to have more videos on Tucson and others next week. Today's Sunday, so starting tomorrow or perhaps Tuesday, we're going to launch into a new town, which will keep as a surprise. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So come on back, and I look forward to seeing you then.